Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night. Hey there, believers. I got a great episode for you this week. Today, I'm bringing on TC. He had emailed me and reached out to me on the bump phone. So it's a double whammy. I love it. Made sure he got a hold of me, and it worked. Um, he said he had been listening to season 3, episode 6, I believe it was, and I can't, off the top of my head, remember what episode that was, but it resonated with him. And he had reached out saying he wanted to come on and talk about waking up to deep scratches on his body and sleep paralysis episodes and things that he just doesn't talk about at work. So I look forward to this conversation. Hopefully we can find some answers and find him some peace. But if you have an experience that you'd like to share, holler at me at thebumppodcast@gmail.com or on the bump phone at 304-812-0553. And again, I'd love to encourage you guys to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the show. If you catch it on YouTube, then make sure you like the show, share the show as much as you can. It gets it up there on the charts so people can see it and follow it. It seems like the show has kind of plateaued lately. I'm not complaining. Thank God that we have the amount of people that listen to the show that I have, but I would love to get these stories out to everybody. If you, I know that the material's there, and I know that the message is there. So one of these days, we'll hit the audience platform. That level. We'll bust through here. And when I say we, I mean all of us. I feel like it's bigger than me. It's a family thing. You guys are my brothers and sisters in Christ, or you're people that have listened to the show. A lot of you for almost 5 years now have been listening to the show, and I thank you for being here from day one. It's a very humbling thought. I feel like I've come to know some of you guys very well. Some of you have, some of the people that's been on the show, I've become friends with. I got your cell phone number, you got mine. We text each other back and forth. It's been good, and I want to thank you guys for that. Yeah, if you feel led to donate to the show, to make a contribution, it's on buymeacoffee.com/thebumppodcast. If you want some merch, there's actually some merch available on stickermule.com/thebumppodcast. I'm doing it through that. It seems to be working out pretty good. Has some good responses from that. So yeah, check it out. See what you think. The prices might seem a little bit high. I don't really think they are compared to other shows or anything like that, like t-shirts and stuff, sticker packs. But as far as I know, I think it's free shipping. So that takes care of that, right? I can't stand paying shipping. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring TC on and jump into his experiences. But before I do, let me tell you, I have finally scheduled a trip to go out for a little while. I'm going to solo camp on a mountain ridge under a tarp or a canopy, and just take some time in the wilderness. And I look forward to that. It's been a long time. It's been years since I went by myself. I'm doing one night solo, and then I'm supposed to have my nephew and a good buddy of mine meet me up there the next night and stay the night and then come home on the third day. So I look forward to that so much. I just wanted to share that with you because my mind's on that a lot right now. Um, we got a week of beautiful weather, and I'm taking a day off work to just enjoy it. And I hope you get to go do things that you enjoy too. And if you want to, take me along with you. All right, let's bring him on. All right, did you get the
Yes, sir.
notification?
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right. Well, TC, thank you so much for coming on. Um, I appreciate your patience and waiting for it to get scheduled and all that kind of good stuff, brother.
Oh, it's no problem, man. I know you're busy. I know you got uh a lot of stuff lined up, man. I've been binging your videos like crazy here lately, so
But I appreciate
it's
that, man.
oh, it's no problem. I've try to get it spread around, man. It's hard to find people that are, I guess, openly into this type of stuff. Luckily, like my brothers and stuff like that, they're pretty good about. We talk about everything, so it don't really bother them as much. But it's definitely something that you don't just run around screaming from the rooftops very often. So
Yeah. Yeah. I kept it quiet from my students for a long time, man. And then eventually they found out and I just kind of ran with it. So now kids bring me like Bigfoot figures and stuff to put on my desk, so they
they
know
try
I'm
to get
kind
on the show with you.
of yeah, I've had a bunch of them come on the show.
Nice.
I do like a once a year. I'll
To
do like
you.
a student episode where I let them come on there and I'll spend my lunch break with them, just letting them talk, and I record their stuff, and it's
Hmm.
fun, man. It gives them something to do. I count it as a public speaking assignment.
Hmm.
So
Oh, hey, nothing wrong with that. That's cool, man. It's to be honest, it's how business is nowadays. Most of it's on computers and stuff
yeah,
like this, anyway. So it's actually something to learn.
yeah,
All right, man. So, what was it again that I messaged you about? It was the sleep paralysis and stuff, right?
yeah. You said you were watching season 3, episode 6, and I honestly don't remember what that episode is. But you said,
And if you, I should have wrote that down because I can't. I just remember it was the guy talking about sleep paralysis and how he had. Oh, I think he had a dream, and then he ended up seeing a dog man later on,
let me see.
and it like what happened in the dream ended up kind of happening in real life. Basically, is what I think it was. I can't remember off the top of my head now. It's been a while since I went back and looked at it. Like I
Yeah,
said, I've binge watched you, so I've been through a couple episodes here lately.
it was the
Um,
I got it pulled up here now. Season 3, episode 6. It was titled "A Tribute to Brian."
is
So, um,
that the right one?
I'm
Might
not
have
sure.
put the
Maybe
wrong.
I was wrong. Maybe it was a different one.
I'm
But I
not sure.
think,
I remember it had to do with sleep paralysis, and I remember it sticking out because I remember the guy saying that he woke up with the actual marks on his body.
oh wow,
Um, uh, I guess to my story, to start off when I was young, man. I've always had stuff like this happen to me. Whether it be seeing weird things, feeling weird things. Um, excuse me. Um, just stuff happens to me all the time, and so you hold this stuff in, and I saw the chance to get on something like this and talk to someone like you that actually believes this stuff happens. So, but when I was young, I used to have, I wouldn't call them, what do they call them, frightmares, just like really intense nightmares.
yeah,
um but most of mine I found out was like sleep paralysis because I would be in my bed and I'd be in my room and I'd just be looking around the room. um but a lot of it started when I was younger. I went to a non-denominational church, and like I said, I was a pastor's kid. My stepdad and my mom were both pastors at the church, not as they were the associate pastors of the church we went to. Excuse me. And my youth pastor was somebody that I really looked up to in my life, and we had a youth group one night, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna baptize y'all in the Holy Spirit, so everybody, we're gonna get together, we're gonna pray over all y'all." and we feel like it's time that y'all got, baptized in the Holy Spirit. You're getting at that age, you're getting older. And, in my mind, I was like, oh, I believe it. But at the same time, I didn't know what I was, what you believe, but you don't know yet. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
And so, he prayed over us. Nothing, it wasn't like something miraculous happened right that moment or whatever. He just prayed. And I don't know how you feel about tongues, but he prayed in tongues over us. And,
Yeah, man.
and I never like flipped out and started praying in tongues in front of anybody right there or nothing like that. Well, I went home that night, and I've got three biological brothers, but I've only had two with me most of my life. My other one, my oldest brother, lives in Alabama, and so we went home. I had my own room, and my brother shared a room, and I went to sleep that night, and it was nothing different. Uh, just went to bed. Uh, I woke up, and I remember it was 3 o'clock in the morning, three on the money. I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I was speaking a different language.
Hmm.
And when I looked, like when I came to and realized my eyes were open and I was speaking that language, I said the last word, and I looked up at I had a dresser sitting beside my bed, like a night table. And there was this black cat figure sitting, uh, I guess you could say, kind of like how a cat would sit, like ready to pounce almost.
Yeah.
It was sitting there, and as soon as I finished what I was saying, it set up, it hissed at me, and it disappeared. It just like poofed, like you would see in a movie.
Wow.
And I was like, "What was that?" So like in my head, I'm like, I was already kind of a scaredy cat growing up. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, I'm like, "What did I just see?" If I tell anybody that, they're gonna laugh me straight off like what is going on?
Right.
So I get up and I was like, well, there's no way I'm gonna go back to sleep. So I'm just gonna get up and go to the living room real quick. I walk in the living room, and my brother, who's he's the middle, he's right below me. He's in the kitchen, and that's weird because when he goes to bed, that boy don't wake up. Like once he's asleep, he's slept through tornadoes before, man. We've had tornadoes jump right over the top of our house, and that kid
Wow.
was gone. Um, and I walked in there, and it's just gonna blow your mind, man. I'm not joking. I walked in there and I said, "Hey, man, what are you doing up?" And I remember he turned around and looked at me. He said, "Well, I woke up exactly at 3 o'clock." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why?" He said, "Well, I had this nightmare that this cat was trying to get you." He said it
Nuh-uh.
was like this black cat was trying to attack you. He said, like, and I was like, "So you had a nightmare that I was being attacked?" He said, "Yeah, it was a black cat that was trying to attack you." And he said, "I woke up and it freaked me out, so I just came to the living room." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And so, like, as I was having that dream, and I believe I woke up speaking in tongues, like God was praying, the Holy Spirit was praying for me.
Yeah.
And when I opened my eyes, that cat that my brother was at that moment dreaming of, it all interlocked, man. It was weird because he was in youth group with me because me and him are really close, or are really close because we're about the same age. He's just right under me,
All right.
like almost a year to the, almost a year exactly. Like, so we're really close. We always real close to each other. And excuse me. And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, when he says something, like you only have to ask him like twice because if he says it, he usually means it. He's a very You ever met those people that are just super quiet? They say what they mean and they mean what they say, and that's it.
Oh yeah.
There's not really like they can have their funny moments, but they're super serious, and that's how he is. And so when he told me that, like because he didn't know me, like I hadn't said nothing about why I had gotten up yet. I just got up because I was freaked out. And when I walked in there, he was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I got, just woke up because you were being attacked by this cat." And that's when I stopped and I was like, "Dude, you will not believe." And I started telling him. Of course, he laughed. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever, dude." Um, but I, so from about that day on, man, like from that day on, it was just like one thing after another. I grew up in a small town, here in Texas, and we would see tons of stuff. And when I would go visit my family in Alabama, it was a really tiny town in Alabama, so you're out in the middle of nowhere. There's a little town called Grady, Alabama, man. Like I 8 people, I think, was the total that lived there. So like the boonies out in the middle of nowhere. Um, and so as we got older, stuff like that would happen. Like stuff in Alabama, like my grandfather had built this really nice house over there, and we'd go visit him, and I was never comfortable in that house. It just something always felt off. You know what I'm talking about? You ever walked into somewhere and you can't pinpoint it, but you know there's something not good there, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't want good for you.
Yeah.
And like my grandmother, it's crazy. She would it hated women. Like no joke. Like it would terrify us still, but it would like physically attack the women in our family.
Really?
Oh yeah, straight up. My grandmother went to the porch one day, and it was like probably like 5:30 in the morning or something like that. She was up getting ready to drink coffee. And the porch that they had, and I still love these old school houses, man. Like like he built it like they have the old school style that they have over there, where the porch goes all the way around.
Oh yeah.
And but the way it was built on the side of this hill. So when you first step on the porch, it's only like a foot step up. But as you go to the very end of the porch, you're 6, 7, 8, 9 foot off the ground. Like it's just the stilts get taller as it goes out, right?
Right.
And she went to one of the spring doors, opened it, and she was just kind of breathing in the morning. She said something literally two-handed, put it on her back, and shoved her off the porch.
Oh no.
And stuff like that would happen. Like my aunts would get attacked, like stuff would pull their hair. But it was always the females. Like the guys, like I would freak out because I was young, and when a door opens by itself and closes by itself multiple times, that's gonna freak you out, right?
Absolutely.
But I felt bad for the ladies in my family because man, they would like it wasn't just the sounds and stuff like that. They get physically attacked. Like things would pull their hair, push my grandmother out the door. And my brother was notorious for being a practical joker. So for the longest time I was like, this is him messing around. But I was like, well, he's not gonna push my grandmother off of a 6 foot deck, right?
Right.
so
Right.
so that wasn't him. Uh
Do they have any idea, or what do they attribute it to?
the the last time I talked about when I talked to my grandpa about it, the couple of times I've talked to him over the years about it, for one, he's very like he's talkative, but not in that sense, like not spiritual stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So getting he's not saved, so getting that type of information out of him is harder because he's gonna basically they believe it was built on like an Indian burial ground
Yep.
or something. Like there was some Indian stuff out there. And I mean, I don't know for a fact if that's true. Uh, I all I know is that house and the house right next to it. That was the neighbors that we ended up buying, and we owned. We like I said, there's 8 people out there, and 6 of them was my family, right?
Right.
So, but the house beside it had been there for probably over 100 years. It was an old. But both of those houses were extremely active, spiritually. Like, and I'm not. I listen to some of your stuff on here, and you talk to some people that believe in ghosts and stuff like that. Like, I don't necessarily believe in ghosts per se.
Right.
I believe they're spirits, but to me, like stuff like that, like I believe is demonic. I believe 90% of the time it's a demon. It's like a familiar spirit,
Yeah.
and it's trying to get close to you. It's like when I hear people tell me, "Oh, it's a nice ghost. It doesn't do anything bad." That to me is just saying that there's a demonic spirit that's trying their best to get attached to you
Mm-hmm.
and allow it to be there so that it can then change to what it is. You know what I'm saying? To
Right.
show its true colors.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, as I got older, uh, I would still see things. Stuff would happen to me.
Like
We went. I'm sorry.
like what kind of things were you seeing?
Uh, a couple different things, man. It was like a mixture. It was a little bit of everything. I guess I grew up at a. I lived in town, but I had a friend who has land, and I grew up at his house. It was actually my head pastor's family. I basically lived with them my whole life. Like I went over there because I was just best friends with their son, right?
Yeah.
But we went out there. We would hog hunt, go hog hunting, go deer hunting, go bird hunting, whatever it was. We were out there with guns, right? And we went out there one time, and I was an early teen at this point. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but we had some four wheelers, and we had went hunting, and we were coming back. We had two four wheelers. My buddy that was like my best friend, he was older than me, and he had another one of his friends over there that was older than me. So they took the big four wheeler, and I got stuck with the little four wheeler, and the little four wheeler didn't have lights, right? So they did what older kids are normally going to do. The path that you had to drive home, no joke, man, creepy as crap. Uh, it was a path to get back to their house, but it was overgrown. So literally, it was like you were under a canvas. So once it got dark, it got like pitch black because you couldn't see the sun like the way that it grew up. It literally looked like a hallway, right in the woods. And so they thought it would be funny. Well, TC doesn't have lights, so we're gonna take off on our four wheeler, which I'm using their lights to drive, right?
Right.
And so they took off and left me, and I was pissed, man. I was like, oh my god. I was like, I'm not gonna panic. I went as far as I could, but I got to the point I couldn't drive no more. I couldn't see, and so I was sitting there, and I had my shotgun with me, which would have been awesome, but I'd used all my shells,
Uh-huh.
so I had a shotgun. I had a stick.
Yep.
Um, and so I was sitting there and I could hear something walking. And I don't know if it's like this where you're at, man, but like some of the loudest creatures on the planet are armadillos,
I,
right?
yeah, I spent years in Louisiana, man, and they
Yeah,
were everywhere down there.
I'll
Yeah, they
tell you,
creep you out if you're out there catfishing at night. That'll freak
dude,
you
I'm
out.
telling you, because it sounds like Bigfoot coming through the daggum woods
It
when
does.
they move around. So I hear something and I could hear them way off in the distance. They're good. What they were going to do was they were going to do the big loop and come back around behind me. Um, and I was like, well, they're coming, but this thing kept coming closer. And I was like, well, if it's something big or if it's a human, I'm just going to rack my shotgun, and that's going to make whatever it is go away, right?
Right.
Well, I didn't have no shells, but I was going to rack the shotgun just to make noise. So I
Yeah.
racked my shotgun, freaking cocked that sucker loud, man. I was like, go away. It kept coming. And I was like, man, that doesn't sound like, because what do they call it? Like it sounded like 2 feet, not four. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is getting creepy. Like don't freak out. You're in the woods. So I keep racking that shotgun over and over and over again as I start kind of panicking a little. And as it keeps coming, it's right behind me. And around the corner, my buddies came back with their four wheeler. And before I could see them, I could see their light come around the corner, right? And when they did, a massive, on 2 feet, hairy, whatever it was, walks across the path.
Uh-uh.
Dude, I about pissed myself.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not gonna lie. I was like, what in the world? So by the time their light came completely around the corner to where they could see, because it like this trail was big enough where you could get two four wheelers side by side, right?
Yeah.
That thing cleared that trail in like one step across. And I was like, I did not just see that. I did not just see that. And so right about the time their light hit me and I could see what's in front of me, I never even gave them a chance to like stop and ask me if I was good, man. I put that sucker on two wheels and took off.
I don't
I,
blame
I
you, man.
dude, I was gone, man. I was too nowadays I'd have probably tried to look around, you know what I'm saying? Like at the time I was like, oh hell no, I'm
Yeah.
gone. And so I took off, and Man, I never said a word to them because I was like, I know what they were gonna say if I said something, like they're gonna say, "Oh, you're freaking out, you're scared, you were scared," make fun of you or whatever. Which I
Yeah.
don't, but I had to put the brave face on, so like I wasn't scared, I was just waiting on y'all because I couldn't see. But I ain't gonna lie, dude, I left a trail of pee out of that place, bro. Because when I saw that, you know how sometimes shadows can make things bigger.
Yeah, man.
Well, the angle that they were and the way that the light came around the corner, there's no way that the shadow played tricks on me. Like, because of where he was at, it just wouldn't make sense with the angles. You know what I'm saying? For the
Yeah.
shadow to work like that. So when it came through, I'm not joking, man. That you could literally in that trail, you could put two 4 wheelers, decent sized 4 wheelers side by side, and be comfortable. You're not like in a tree.
Right.
And when that light came around and that thing stepped across, and the crazy part is it didn't look worried. Like it didn't. There was no like you would think it would be panicking that the light was coming. It just never broke stride, man. It just like came across, took that one stride across the path, and was in the woods and was gone. And I was like, oh my god. And and multiple times on that property, when my brothers or one of their brothers were out hunting, they've heard like monkey sounds and stuff out there.
Yeah, man.
Which is crazy because I mean we're in East Texas. You don't have monkeys swinging from trees out here, right?
Yep.
But like it wasn't just monkey sounds, but like screams, man. Like you would almost like a panther sound, but like it was definitely more monkey than panther. Um, like you would hear like a jump, and it would be in the tree, and then you would hear the scream, and then it would be in the next tree down the way, like it was jumping.
Wow.
And my brothers, they said, yeah, that was the quickest time that they finished their hunt up fast on that one, man. They went home, and it takes a lot. My brother's buddy, sorry, the youngest of my youngest brother and the family's youngest son that own that land, they they're not the type to get scared. You know what I'm saying? They're not like worried about anything. But they were like, something's off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Hey, let me ask you, how far East Texas are we talking? Are you close to like Caddo
Well,
Lake, like the Louisiana border?
no. I'm more. I guess you could say we still claim East Texas. I'm right by College Station.
Okay.
You know where that's at? Uh,
I, mm,
literally, my town is right in the middle of Houston and Dallas.
gotcha.
Like
Okay.
we're right there in the middle on 45.
Yeah, man.
But like I said, like you're just getting into the East Piney Woods over there. Like
Yep.
just outside of my town to the east,
Yeah.
just to the east of my town, you're climbing into the Piney Woods. Davy Crockett National Forest is right there,
Okay. Yeah, I think I know where
which
you're at.
I would love to get a group of people and go see what we could find in that forest. Because my God, dude, it's huge.
Man, I don't know if I need a Bigfoot story right now. I'm supposed to go out and do some solo camping in the next couple of days, dude.
Man, that's when you need it though, man. You go find it. Excuse me. Um, that's really my only Bigfoot thing that I've ever really, like I said, like I'm pretty sure that's what I saw.
Yeah.
I don't think it was dogman or anything like that. Like it looked like Chewbacca walked across the trail.
Well, I know that you're a believer. You're a
Mhm.
Christian man. Do you where do you sit at with this Bigfoot creature? Do you think that it's like, and I
It
know that
used
you probably listen to other shows that they talk about that stuff all the time. They ask that question, but um where do you stand on it?
it used to when I first when I would first think about my experience before, like I said, because before for the longest time, man, people don't talk about that stuff. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you unless you were watching an episode of Bigfoot Hunters or whatever, and you had watching Bobo chase you know Bigfoots.
Right.
Um, I thought it was either one a hoax or two it was just some big monkey that nobody's found. You know what I'm saying? That's really good at hiding. Now through a lot of studying, a lot of just reading and watching videos and listening to other people. I have they have to be some sort of Nephilim,
Yeah.
uh, or some sort of that bloodline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because something that big should not be able to just disappear.
Right.
Um, like I said, it's almost like it let me hear it until it didn't need me to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what's otherworldly about it to me too, man.
yeah,
There's
and
too many things.
something I heard on one, I think it was one of yours or it was on confessionals. I can't remember. They talked about how when those stuff happens, it gets eerily quiet.
Yeah.
It was like that. It got eerily quiet. Like it was weird. It's like I could hear the four wheelers off in the distance, but it's like they were in my mind they were a million miles away. It's just like everything zoned in that spot.
Yeah.
So like when you asked that question, and I had a feeling like because I it has to be spiritual somehow, man. Like I said, something that big doesn't just disappear like that. Something that big doesn't just vanish out of nowhere. Um, I've been listening to a lot of confessionals, so they talk about the portals and stuff all the time, and at first I was like, oh my god, it's ridiculous. But then
Right.
when you start to think, sorry,
I was agreeing. Yeah. At first, it does sound kind of out there,
yeah,
don't it?
yeah. At first I was just like, all right, y'all are pushing it now. Like like your stuff's good, you're pushing it. But then when you think back on an experience like I had, and it's like at first it sounded like a tank walking through the dead gum brush. It felt like everything just went silent. I couldn't hear the footsteps really. I started racking because that made me even more eerie. And then once I saw the light, it's like, dude, I should have been able to hear that thing. Like it was no further than me. It was less than 10 yards from me when it crossed.
Wow.
Like, dude, it was close. That's like when I say I almost peed myself, I'm not joking.
Wow.
Like his stride in another direction towards me, he'd have been on. Like, like it's so like in my mind, I was like, was that thing coming for me? Was it just happened to be passing through? I don't know, man. Uh,
That's a sobering thought, ain't it?
dude, I'm telling you, man. Like, I'm just glad. Like, I seriously, I'm just glad I hadn't drank a lot of drink that night before we went out there because that would have been embarrassing. Now, as like I said, as I got older, that's the only Bigfoot. My mom, before she passed, she used to tell us all the time that she had seen some Bigfoot stuff, and when she was younger, in where she around where she grew up around here, you know, I. I I believed her, but at the same time, she was a jokester. She used to make us go out snipe hunting,
Oh yeah.
just to make fun of us when we did. What I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
I'll miss her, man. But so I didn't know, but she really believed it, man. And she's one like I've told a handful of people about that, and it's pretty much the same thing. Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah, totally. I believe you, but you look at their face and it's like, oh yeah, what I'm
Right.
saying. They don't believe me at all. No, as I got older, man, it went from well, mainly I had a lady, a friend of mine's mom, because I used to like want to go like hunting, like go to like cemeteries and stuff like that,
Yep.
and like go ghost hunting and all that fun stuff. And she pulled me aside one day, and it was funny because she didn't even tell her son this. It's like she pulled me aside, but she pulled me aside and she looked at me and she said, "Tommy," she says, "if you go looking for trouble," she said, you're probably gonna find it.
Hmm. There you
And I
go.
was like, "Ooh, what does that mean?" Like, but it's like when she said it, it cut me, man. Like it went deep, you know. Like I was like, "What does that mean?" You know, and it didn't stop me. I still went out that night, but ever since then, though, like I haven't really like. I would love, like I said, I would love to get some people to go into the Davy Crockett National Forest and that area, East Texas, and go look around. You know what I'm saying? I'd love that. I would never do it by myself. I'm just not man enough for that, I guess. Um, but I would love to get a group and do something like that. But like as for like cemeteries and stuff like that, cemetery hopping, like I know a lot of people here that do that.
Oh
Man,
yeah.
I can't do it. I've seen so much demonic stuff in my life. I'm like, nah, dude.
Hey, I don't
They can
blame you.
stay where they're at.
That's it. That's it. They can stay here wherever they're at. I don't need to see it. I already believe.
Oh, absolutely. Me and a buddy, we went. He lived in his family owned like a couple hundred acres, like deep East Texas. Like the further you go, the less teeth they have. You know what I'm saying? Like deep East Texas.
Yeah.
Um, and we were out there one time, and he had a decent sized little pond out there. Um, and he was like, "Hey man, let's go fishing." And I was like, "All right." You tell me twice. You know, it was like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
All right.
So we were like, "Yeah, let's get a boat." So me, him, and his cousin, we hop in a boat and go out on this pond, and we're just out there fishing, just chilling. Uh, which is crazy. We didn't bring our guns this time, which is really weird because 90% of the times, if we were out in the woods or we were anywhere not in the house, we had a firearm, right?
Yeah.
Uh, especially in East Texas. So we were out there on that boat and we're fishing, and I see something in the water, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "That's not water." So I look up, and I'm not joking, man. I look up, and there's these three huge, like good size. I wouldn't say huge, but three good size blue balls in the sky,
Hmm.
and they're like in a triangle, and they were like rotating around each other. And as they would rotate, like what the one would go between the other two, and they would rotate, and it was just like poetic almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And it's like they were dancing in the sky, and we just like we're staring at this, and we're like, what is going on? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, there's got to be somebody shining flashlights or something. So I start looking around, and there's no light beam, which at that time of night, as dark as it was and a little bit foggy, you would have seen a light
All right.
beam. I told him, I was like, hey, dude, like, and it gave me like this eerie feeling, you know what I mean? And so I, I told him, I was like, let's do what any normal people would do. So we shot off the lake or the pond. We drove back to the house real fast, went and got our guns, and went back out there to go fishing again. And by the time we got there, it was gone. You know, there was nothing there. But I don't know, man. Where do you stand on that? Like, have you ever had an experience with that?
Well, yeah, and it was the most definite sighting that I had of lights.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you're talking about orbs
Yeah, it's
or
like an orb. It's like a basketball in the sky.
wow. Okay. Now I haven't dealt with an orb. I've seen a UFO, and it was like there's nothing else it could have been on this. There's nothing in the natural world that could have been
Like,
other than a
well, like
UFO.
scale wise, what do you?
Um, well, I would say it was a couple miles away. I was on I-20. I was in a place you might know where I'm talking about. It's called Arkadelphia.
Yeah,
I was leaving Shreveport, Louisiana, in Bossier City, and I was heading
that's probably
back
a good
home. I was
idea.
heading up this way,
Yes.
and I was in. I saw a light in the sky out of the passenger window. I was in the passenger side of my dad's vehicle.
Hmm.
He had come down to help me move back home to West Virginia, and we were on our way home, and I saw this white light up in the sky, and
Mm.
it was going the same direction we were, but it was way, way off in the distance. And it was moving at a good click, man. And I saw it on the passenger side, like directly beside me, and it went forward to where it got far enough ahead of me that my dad could see it through the windshield too. So
Mhm.
it's like it gets basically directly over I-20, but it's way ahead of us. But it's a straight road.
Yeah.
So it gets centered up over top of the interstate, over top of the vehicle, like in front of the vehicle, not over us, but in front of the
Mhm.
vehicle. And it flashed out. Instead of white, it flashed this really bright green light, and it filled the
Mm.
whole sky, like the whole windshield, man. It would just turn green, and then that light sucked back in. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah, and when it sucked in, it was gone. Like it disappeared. Like something hit like hyper speed or something. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
have
that's
I haven't seen like orbs though. I haven't seen like the blue ball of light or anything.
yeah, see mine was, I guess it scale wise, it was shaped like a basketball, but it was bigger. It was like 4 5 foot around.
Yeah,
Like they were big. Like, but I've never seen something be able to move like that, man. Like to be that in, and this is, man, this is like 2008, right?
yep.
Somewhere around there, 2007, 2008. So like this is before all the fancy like uh
Recreation drones.
yeah, drones and stuff like that. Like you're not, and even then, like, dude, to fly like that thing, those were flying. I don't think you could fly like that. It was literally, it was like they were three separately moving as one.
Wow.
And then it would go like a complete circle, like one after another, and then the one would shoot through the middle of the other ones. And then it was just like it was like but it didn't feel to me it didn't feel safe. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yep.
didn't have a. I called my buddy about that the other day actually because I had listened to some stuff on. I don't remember if it was one of yours or one of the other shows I watched. It might have been Ninja Butterflies, but I can't remember which one I was listening to about orbs or whatever. And I was like, man, I wonder if they remember that or if I'm just flipping out, right?
Right.
And so like I actually called my buddy and I was like, "Do you remember that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, it was nothing, man. It was nothing." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And like, dude, he straight up like it's like he didn't want to talk about it.
Yep.
He was just like, "Oh no, no, it was a flashlight or something." I was like, "Bro, come on, man. You're telling me because back at that time, like if you had a spotlight, it was one of them big one-handed spotlights, right?
Yep.
That weighed like 10 pounds. You're telling me there was three guys out there having fun, shining spotlights in the sky, dancing with them. Come on, man, give me a break. You know,
Yeah.
and I love him to death, man. But it's like mentally, he just didn't want to deal with it.
Yep. And people do
I,
that, man. They
I'm
if they
telling you,
can't rationalize it, they act like they just don't believe themselves, you
yeah.
know?
And then they look at you like you're crazy, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you know what you saw, man. Like, it frustrates me because like yes, I understand. To most people, when I tell that story, they look at me like I'm an idiot, right? I get that, but I'm not gonna not tell it.
Right.
Um, I'm not gonna not, uh, explain that stuff. I guess if I saw it, hopefully it'll help somebody.
Yeah.
Now as I got, like I said, as I got older, I started not living for God the way that I should have been. I started drinking real heavy, and being a preacher's kid, I guess you can say.
Right.
Um, not living the way that I was supposed to. And so I started having those really bad nightmares and sleep para. Man, I told my wife I was gonna mess this up because I'm terrible with that word. Sleep par. Say it for me.
Paralysis.
Paralysis. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Sleep
Hey, it's a tough
paralysis.
word, man.
It is. It messed me up. But I started having sleep paralysis really bad. Like I said, I would be there. I was in Alabama one time. I was laying on the bed and I was asleep. I had to share a room with some my. I was mm, I can't remember. I was probably 18, 19 years old. And the house, it was full at the time, so I had to share a bed with my uncle. And so I'm laying there like he's gone or something because he goes and plays pool all the time. So I was like, dude, like I'm getting bed tonight. So I like lay in bed and I'm sleeping and I opened my eyes and I was like, okay, like Tommy, don't freak out, but you're not awake. Like I knew,
Right.
like right away. And where I'm laying directly in front of me, just to my right, there's a window. And I couldn't see the spirit, but I like it's like my eyes could follow it, but I couldn't see it.
Yep.
Like I knew it was there and I knew where it was at the whole time as it came through the window. Like I could see it, but I couldn't see it. And so I was looking at it and I remember asking God, I was like, God, make it go away, make it go away. Like I was freaking out. I could not move. I was laying on my side, right at the edge of the bed. And my arms were up against my chest. And I was like, God, I can't move. I
Mm.
can't protect myself. And he was like, I remember hearing something talk back to me. He was like, tell me it's okay. Don't freak out. Pray. And I was like, God, I don't know what to do. And I looked off to the side. I said, well, maybe if I roll off the bed, I'll hit the floor and it'll wake me up. And the voice said, don't fall, because if you fall, you won't get back up.
Oh, wow.
And I said, whoa, okay, we're not going that way. So I sat there and I started praying. And I was like, in the name of Jesus, you have to leave. And it laughed at me. And I said, in the name of Jesus, you have to leave. And it laughed at me. And I was like, God, I don't know what to. And it's like right then it hit me. For all of sin and fall short of the glory of God. And I said, God, forgive me for
Yeah.
whatever I've done. You know, forgive me of whatever sin I've committed that I'm holding right now. Forgive me in Jesus' name. Now leave in Jesus' name. And as soon as I said that, dude, it's like as soon as I asked for forgiveness and I said, now leave, it's like the whole room just like energy exploded, man. And that sucker, I watched it. It looked like an episode of Looney Tunes. Started bouncing one side to the other in the room as it went right back out the same window it came in.
Yes. And
And
you
I
didn't
set
care.
up. Yeah, and I set up and I was like, oh God, like what was that? And I'm like looking around and I was like, God, whoo, dude, the earnest in that voice though, when it told me, Tommy, don't fall. Because if you fall, you're not gonna get back up.
Mm.
And I think that had more to do with less with me falling off the bed and more of like God saying, Tommy, like, look at where you're going. Look at the road you're going down, right?
Yeah,
Because I
man.
was not living for Christ at all, like I should have been. And then I had another one. I lived in an apartment with a bunch of friends. Man, it was the epitome of like young, just into your 20s males, all in a rock band, right?
You're right.
Living in an apartment, doing nothing but getting blitzed every night, and trying to go to work in the morning, right?
Yep.
And so it was not living our lives at all like we were supposed to. And I had a guy come, but my buddy's sister had a boyfriend, and they came over one day, and she was like, "Can he stay with you?" They kind of cornered me because it was, and I was like, "Well, I would rather not. I don't know this guy," but they asked me in front of him,
Oh man.
and so at the time, it put me in a really bad spot, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess that's cool, like he can stay. Um, without telling me that this dude had just gotten out of prison,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just out of prison, gang member, just out of prison. Um, well, one day I'm at the house and they all come back and he's being weird. Like he was always somebody that I had a trouble getting along with a little bit,
Right.
but he was usually upbeat, almost annoyingly. And he was just like looked like a zombie when he walked in. And I was like, "What are y'all doing?" And they were like, "Oh, we went ghost hunting."
Mm.
And I was like, what do you mean? They were like, oh, we heard about this haunted church. And so we went to this church to go look around and stuff like that. And I was like, why would you do that? And they were like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You know, it's just ghosts, you know. Da, 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 da. Well, apparently, while they were there, the my friend's sister and a couple other ones went around one way, and he was trying to prove how brave he was because he was, you know, just out of prison, super gangster guy.
Yep.
And so he was going to go by himself the other way. They said by the time they met up in the middle, his whole countenance had just like, he went from like cocky, upbeat, like I could do anything I want to type guy
Right.
to just like stone faced white. And they said that the further they got away from the church, the more of a pissed off countenance this guy had, right? From that moment forward, when they stepped back into that house, every night, dude, I would wake up at the apartment complex that we lived in. Our front door, I don't know what they were expecting there, but our front doors were built like tanks, right? Like you didn't just open that door.
Right.
Like even if you wanted to open the door, like when it's unlocked and I'm just going inside and outside, like annoyingly heavy doors. Um, I got up one night, I like looked around and something just felt off, and I was like, man, something's not right. And so like walked in the living room, the front door's wide open, just sitting wide open, and I was like, and I got pissed because I was like, well, somebody must have went outside or something, smoked a cigarette or something, and came back in and left the door open. And I was mad. I was like, we're gonna wind up getting robbed. So I went over there and I shut the door. And as soon as I shut the door, the cabinet's open
Mm-mm.
on the other side. And I was like, oh no, I don't like this. I was like, time out. And so like day in and day out, stuff like that would happen, man. Like we'd hear the cabinets just slamming, dude, over and over again. Like, and we got to a point where we wound up moving out of that house, and I'm having those dreams, and just stuff's not going good, right?
Right.
Like all of our friendships are falling apart. Like everything is just like going downhill in all of our friendships, like the apartment, everything. But so me and my buddy at the time that I was closest to, I ended up going with him to his parents' house because as much as I love my mom and my stepdad, like we just didn't get along very well at the time, and there was no going home for me, right?
Right.
Um, so I went over to his parents' house, and we were sharing a room. And one night we were all in the living room. It was me, him, our other buddy, and we were sitting there watching like this is when Family Guy was really huge.
Yeah.
So we were sitting there watching Family Guy, and I'm on the couch, and they're on a blow up mattress on the floor or something, just finding places to crash, right? And my buddy is looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, dude, we went to a cemetery the other day," and I just looked at him. I was like, "Dude, how many times do I tell you you gotta stop doing that? Like, you gotta stop going to those places." I was like, "You know better. Like, he knows better. Like, I love him to death, but he grew up a pastor's kid too. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows better."
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh man, while I was there was this little ghost kid." And he said that little ghost kid was really sad, man. He said, I think something bad happened to him. He said, so I told him he could stick with me. And I was like, oh no.
No way.
And I was like, bro, and I looked up and they're facing me. I'm on the couch and I look across the kitchen into the dining room and there's a massive shadow figure standing right there.
Hmm.
And it sees that I can see him. Like he had no eyes. It's just a shadow, right? But it's like we locked eyes.
Yeah, man.
And I'm looking at him. And for once in my life, dude, I wasn't scared. I was just staring at him. I was just like, really? And as I'm looking at him, and I look down and I go to tell them, it's like he bows up. Like I don't know how to explain it to you, but the shadow figure bowed up, and like the room got darker and like went red almost. Right. I'm trying to think. The best way I can think of it. Have you seen The Matrix?
Yeah.
You know when Neo like flexes and then like the whole air around him flexes with him?
Yep.
In one of the, it was like that. Like this thing flexed, bowed up, got bigger, and was pissed because I was about to snitch on him, right? And I looked down and I said, "Hey, uh, my friend, I'm not gonna say names, but my friend, uh, I said, hey, you know your little buddy that your so-called ghost kid?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "He ain't a ghost kid." And he was like, "Tommy, what are you talking about?" I said, "Oh, he's not." And he's really pissed off that I'm snitching on him right now. And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I pointed, and when they turned, dude, I'm not gonna lie, watching two young 19, 20 something year old dudes turn ghostly white as that thing is sitting there staring at us in the other room and I'm just looking at it was one of the funniest, scariest moments I've ever seen in my life. Like their faces went pale, man. I was like, that's why you don't allow things to attach to you.
Yeah, no kid.
That's why when they say that they want a friend or they act like they want you to take care of them, you tell them to get lost. And he was like, "Whoa, like I don't know, I don't." I was like, "Dude, what do you have to see to believe?"
Yeah, no kidding. So did you get rid of it?
I Okay, so I prayed, and at that moment, it like phased out, and it didn't mess with me that night. Right, I couldn't get rid of it because it was not my house.
Right.
Um, and I've learned as I've gotten older, when I'm in other people's houses, the best thing I can do is just pray that God protects me because if it's not my house and I don't belong there except for just I'm invited over there as a friend or something,
Right.
I don't feel like I have the authority unless they give me the authority, like say, "Hey, can you please pray this out?"
Right. There you go.
Well, my friends were not doing that because they believed it's just a ghost, right? Oh, it's just a ghost. Um, I love him to death, man, but his parents, what's that? How do you say? I don't want to say false prophet, but said some things that you shouldn't say. All right, we'll put it that way. Um, and allowed things that shouldn't have been allowed, and then to call yourself a prophetess and be in the church is kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
And so I had no say. Uh, in fact, not too long after that, one of the scariest I've ever been in my life. I was in the room that we shared while I was living there, and we had two twin size beds, one on each side of the room, right? And I remember this like yesterday, dude. It still gives me goosebumps. Like I can't. One of the scariest I've ever been in my life. Uh, this is when I started physically seeing things like scratches and stuff like that on my skin. Um, I'm laying there and I'm in the room, but there's some subtle differences, right? But I know I'm asleep, and I'm sitting there, and I'm this fear overcomes me, man. Like I don't necessarily know how to explain it, except for like you could taste it.
Wow.
Um, and so I'm sitting there and I'm freaking out, and I'm like, I need to get out. I need to get out. And I go to try to open the door, and the door wouldn't open. And I was like, I can't get out. I can't get out. And I'm sitting there trying to panic and open the door. Um, and I remember hearing my brother's voice. For some reason, growing up, like God would always use my brother's voice in my dreams. Like I don't know, he's like my conscience. Um, I heard him. He said, Tommy, just open the door. And I was like, I'm trying. And when that wouldn't work, I ran and jumped out the window. Well, when I jumped out the window, I landed right back in the room. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm freaking out. I'm looking around. Well, I see these three figures in the distance. and the fear just like doubled. And I was like, what is that? And so I keep trying to open the door, keep trying to open the door. And my brother's like, Tommy, or his voice is like, Tommy, just open the door, man. And I was like, I'm trying to open the door. It won't open. And he's like, you keep doing the same stuff over and over again, expect a different result. Just open the door. And I was like, I'm trying. And I look up where those three figures are closer, and they're like three girls coming towards me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm freaking out, man. I'm panicking. Like I can remember. Like I'm not scared now because I know who my God is, but at the same time, I can remember that fear. All right. And as they got closer and I'm panicking to get the door open, the closer they got, the more that they deteriorated and became like more demonic, right? And right as they got to me, my brother said, Tommy, open the door. And so I just something in me snapped and I was like, God help me. And I opened the door. And when I opened the door, I stepped through. And when I opened my eyes in reality, like in real life, I was over my buddy's bed punching him in his face.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It's bad. Like he didn't know what to do. He's sitting there like, what's going on? And I'm like bawling my eyes out. He said that literally I came out of my bed with tears in my eyes, screaming like a banshee, and was just like punching him in his face. And it was like usually he would have got mad about something like that. We've been fighting, right? But he said it was so he could see the fear in me so much he didn't know what to think. So he just kept trying to grab my arms
Wow.
as I was hitting him. And I just remember being like, God, what was that? As I'm not a crier. You can ask my wife. She laughs at me all the time because like I'm not a crier. She's like, do you even have a heart? Um, but I'm not the type of person to cry a lot. And I was bawling my eyes out, man. Just tears just running down my face and not knowing what was going on. And I don't know how to explain it, man. Like it was one of the scariest I'd ever been in my life.
Yeah, because you weren't
And
in control of yourself.
no, not at all. And that bothered me because even like when I was young and I would drink, like it's funny you say it like that because even when I was young and I would drink very heavily, but I always knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like not once. And when I say I would get drunk, like we would shut bars down or we would go home and drink until the house was dry.
Yeah.
All right. But I always, for some reason, kept my mind about me. Like I always knew where I was, what I was doing, how I was getting where I was going or whatnot. Like there was no blackout. For some reason, I just never had blackouts.
Right.
And so to wake up not knowing what was happening and like literally assaulting my buddy as he's laying there, right? And like, dude, I have to give it to him. He was never mad about it. It's almost like he knew something. There was something deeper. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh,
Because he didn't take it as me like, oh, dude, like you're out. Like you tried to kill me or something. Like he literally was like, dude, something's going on. Like we need to figure out what's going on because he was dealing with stuff too. It just he didn't have the same spiritual background in what that I did, and what spiritual background he did have was very tainted
right.
in a really messed up way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just very very ah yeah, just a very weird situation. But so after that, I called a buddy of mine and was like, "Hey, dude, like I need prayer because this is getting ridiculous." Right after that, I did move back in with my parents for a little bit, and when I got in there, um, I was asleep one night, and like I said I always had friends either live with me or they were friends with my parents. So it was like a big family, right? All my friends and us. Well, I had a buddy. He was staying with us at the time, and we had twin size beds. He had one side, I had one side. We were laying there, and I know you talk a lot about Lilith, right?
Oh yeah.
We're laying there, and dude, you would have thought, give you goosebumps. I was laying in bed, and I remember I got this eerie cold feeling. I was like, what was that? Like something's off, right? And I opened my eyes, and there is this female in a white dress standing in front of our beds, like in
Gosh.
the middle of both of our beds in the front of me. And I'm sitting there, and she's just staring at me. Like, I'm frozen, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. Like, this stuff doesn't happen at my parents' house usually. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents usually prayed up. This thing is just staring at me. And she's sitting there, and it's like it's not like in the movies, like she's not flowing. You know what I'm saying? Like the dress isn't. It's like she's just literally there.
Yeah.
And I look up and I go like I couldn't move. I was just like, I'll call him D. I was like, hey D, and he's like, I see her.
What?
And I said, what do we do? He said, just don't move. And so like I'm sitting there, man, and I am like, to this day, she was physically in my room, and then I looked up, I looked over at D, I looked back at her, she looked right in my eyes and just gone. And I was like my first thought was like Jezebel, right?
Right.
Like, is that Jezebel? You know, like what is this? Um, I never thought of the Lilith thing until I never knew what that was until I started listening to your podcast. Like I'd seen the new stupid little cartoons they got.
Uh-huh.
I'd seen those, but I had never. Is it Lilith that they call the lady in white?
Uh, there's a whole lot of lady in white stories, but the ones that the ones that I've dealt with, listened to and stuff like that. Yeah, it's that's how she appears quite a bit, man.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, dude, she was standing no further than the end of a twin size bed for me, staring at me.
Wow.
Like wasn't looking at him, looking straight at me. And he looked and like I just remember being like, D, and he was just like, I see her. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, and I don't we didn't live in a big scary dude, we lived in a trailer.
Yeah.
All right. This is a little single wide trailer in a trailer park. So it's not like it's 100-year-old house with a past, right? Like it is a trailer. And
Now,
she
how?
was sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, how did she appear to you? Did she appear to you like, um, I know she's in a white dress, but was she like a beautiful lady, or was she like
Yes.
this night hag, or?
No, like beautiful. Like but evil.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You see something so beautiful and you're like, that's gonna kill you. Like don't touch that. You know, like
Yeah.
it's like that. She very, very beautiful is how she appeared. And I was just like, oh no, like this is not that's not human.
Right.
Like
Yeah, man.
um like I said, I had never heard of the Lilith thing. Like I thought that was a Jezebel spirit coming against me, right? Like
Yeah.
but now that I've listened to some of the stuff that you talk about and some, ever since first it was weird. Like I heard it from you, and then all of a sudden, like ninja butterflies and a couple other people started talking about it some,
Yeah.
and I was like, I've never heard of this. Like, what is this? And then I think brought back to that, and I was like, man, it was I like the dress was not seductive in any way. It's not like she was sitting there in like a half tore off dress, right?
Right. Right.
It was like just a dress, very, is a very beautiful lady if you're going off of that. But the presence was straight evil,
Yeah.
straight evil. Like just you could tell it was like, please make a mistake. Like, and so I was like, man, I really, I really want to talk about this on the bump because I know that that's kind of his forte right now. But it freaked me out, man. I
Yeah, it's trippy that she would appear like that and both of you see it for
Yeah,
one.
we both saw it. To this day, he straight up like
Man,
he straight up was like, "Yep, I was there. I saw." Me and him's always been we're best friends. We grew up together. He we share a birthday. Actually, we both have the same birthday. He's just
wow,
exactly 1 year older than
that's wild.
me, and so we've always been real close. And growing up, we've always like I was laying in a bed at a youth pastor friend of mine's house. He was the youth pastor of a church over here, and I was just really good friends with him. I wasn't in youth, but I was friends with him. And I was sleeping in a spare room one night. I was kind of a drifter, dude. I was one of those people that could never find a home.
Yeah.
I was always going to different places, couldn't sit still. Uh, and I think part of that is why I saw all this stuff because I was it's like I was being hunted. You know what I'm saying? I never felt comfortable. So I would just jump around. And I was laying there one night and in the middle of town when like I was out in the country or nothing like that. And he had a dog, but he had him in a cage. He was in his room. A buddy of mine was on the couch in the living room, another one of our friends. And the most blood curdling growl I've ever heard in my life, man. Like, you know how they talk about when you hear a growl when they're out Bigfoot hunting, it almost makes you physically sick.
Yep.
It was like that. I got like sick to my stomach. I could feel this growl.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's not his dumb dog.
All right.
Because I know his dog. It's a yapper. That's not a dog. Nobody else in the house heard it, dude. Like I heard nothing else after I heard it. I'm just laying there like that was a growl. What in the world? And I was freaking out, so I called my friend, the one that was with me when I saw the lady. And as soon as he answered the phone, he said, "I know." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Right as you called me, he said I had some clothes and sheets and stuff on the floor on the side of the room that was getting ready to go to laundry." He said they formed a face and they stared at me. And I was like, what the crap? He's like, what did you see? I said, dude, I just heard the worst. I I I didn't know what to think of this when it first happened, right? I had never in my life heard of dogmen. All right. Never in my life. Like I heard of Bigfoot and ghost.
Yep.
But everything I've ever heard about dogmen is what I heard that night laying in that room.
Hmm.
Because dude, it literally felt like it shook the house, and I was the only person that heard it. But yet, my buddy, who was 30, 40 miles away from where I was at, was going through almost an identical attack
Yeah.
where he was at.
Man, that makes me want what
I'm
was
sorry.
going what was going on? Were you guys messing with anything? Like,
Well, okay, so he went through a phase there where he got into witchcraft a little bit. He
okay.
was dabbling. He wasn't like part of a coven or anything like that, right? He was
Yep.
dabbling. Uh, I would never messed with witchcraft that I knew of, that I thought that I knew was witchcraft.
All right.
Heck, we weren't even allowed to watch Harry Potter growing up, bro. Like,
Right.
like, like wasn't messing with that stuff. I have always had this type of. I was debating on whether I was going to tell this. So I went. I was a youth worker, a youth assistant is what they called me. I was 18 years old, and I was working with the youth program at the church. I worked right under the youth pastor, right? And we took the kids to church camp. I'm not gonna say the name of the camp right now, but we went to church camp, and it's an amazing church camp. You're like, no lie, it's awesome. And this is a good story, but I keep going back to this because I feel like this is why I get attacked so much, but I don't know. Um, like I said, I'm no different than any other human being. I make mistakes. I don't know why I see this stuff, or like I haven't even touched getting into my marriage yet. All right, like stuff that'll blow your mind. Uh, we went to church camp, and we go. It's like a Wednesday, so it's like the third day of camp, and I'm having a terrible week. All right, like I am not happy, not enjoying it. Um, just having a rough go of it, and I'm sitting in worship, and so this is why I do kind of believe in the portal things, or like the when you can get into a position where there's no time.
Right.
Because I'm sitting there and I'm worshiping, and I am just like got my eyes closed, and I'm just like, God, I'm gonna worship you. I know I fail you every day. I know I'm not worthy, but I'm gonna worship you. And the guy that I'm rooming with at camp, he was struggling with some things that I knew about, which made me very uncomfortable around him. Um, but I had to share a room with him because it's the only he was the oldest out of all the youth, and so like we were the two older guys, so we had to share a room. And I was very uncomfortable with him, but he was sitting next to me at worship, and I vividly the only time I can honestly say I remember hearing God's voice or hearing a voice that I believe was God, and he said, "Put your hand on his shoulder," and I was like, "Oh no, God." Uh, and he said, "Tommy, put your hand on his shoulder." But it was never like he was mad. He was just like stern, you know?
Right.
You know, like when your dad's not mad at you, but he wants you to do something.
Yep.
And he said, Tommy, put your hand on his shoulder. I was like, all right, yes, sir. I touched his shoulder. And as soon as I touched his shoulder, dude, I'm not going to lie, straight fell into the dude's arms next to him, just out.
Wow.
And and to this day, I don't know about the whole slaying in the spirit things. You know, I'm not that Pentecostal. So I don't know. All I know is that when God told me to touch his shoulder, I touched his shoulder and the dude went to sleep. Like, like, and like, but like was happy. It was weird.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and when that happened, I was like, "Oh my God, you're God!" You know, like what
Oh
is
yeah.
going on? And so like I remember sitting there, and he said there was a female in front of me. And at the time, I was dating a girl that was there because we were all the same age, right? And but her friend didn't like me. I was like the poor guy, right?
Yep.
And so she was not a fan of me. And she was sitting there worshiping, and God, I heard his voice. He said, Tommy, put your hand on her shoulder. And I was like, oh, no, God. No, 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 no. Not going to happen. And he said, Tommy, put your hand on her shoulder. And I was like, all right. So I reached up and I touched her shoulder. And as soon as I touched her shoulder, it's like the dam broke loose. She just started bawling, man, just crying. Just straight tears. Like I'd never seen somebody cry. You know what I'm saying? Like just bawling. And I'm sitting there and it's like it hit me and I was like, oh my God, you're God. And next thing I know, dude, I have my eyes closed and I'm worshiping and I've never been able to, I can't, it's hard to explain, but it's like I could feel the music. All right. And I was just worshiping. And then I feel this warm, I guess you can only say like oil, right? I felt like this only way I could it's like oil or someone cracked an egg on your head,
Yep.
land on my head, and I felt it go down my body all the way to my feet, man. Like just
Wow.
like straight down. I could feel every hair on my body, like individually, just buzzing. And I was just like, God, what? what is this? I was like, oh my God, you're God. And so I dropped to my knees and I was like, God, I'm not worthy of this. Like, what are you doing? Like, I've not been living for you. I'm not doing good. And I was like, oh my God, you're God. What am I doing? This is not far enough. So I fell straight flat on my face, dude.
Amen.
And I hit the ground and I had my arms out. I'm laying flat on my face in this little section of like this big concert auditorium thing. And the music is just going and going and going. And then by the time I finally came to, and like I was aware the whole time, I was just worshiping. And then I was like, okay, and it's I felt like God was like, okay, you can get up. Not joking, man. I get up, and when I open my eyes, I am in a dark room, and there is not one person in that auditorium.
Uh-uh.
That music had stopped playing 20 minutes ago,
Oh my goodness.
but I could still hear the worship the entire time I was laying there. It's like
Amen.
God was straight up bathing me in His glory, man. I can't like I don't cry, but I want to cry because I want everybody to know this. Like
Yes, man. That's what
He
it's all
just
about.
fell on me like I had never in my life had Him fall on me. Uh,
That's
so
wonderful,
so
man.
I walk out of the room and I'm like, what the crap just happened? Like I'm in so much trouble, right? Because we have right after worship is like church time where you go with your individual churches. Um, so I go in there, and this is how Satan works, man. And this is how quick Satan, if you do not, like the Bible talks about putting on the armor and keeping yourself protected at all times.
Right.
This is how fast Satan can take something like that away from you. So I walked into the church room, and when I walked in, my youth pastor at the time is going off on the youth group. Like he is like reaming them. You know what I'm saying? Like he is letting them know what he thinks of whatever it was that happened. Right?
Really?
Yeah, he is like getting on them hardcore. And so I'm like, what is going on? And I hear this voice in my head. It's what you did, Tommy.
Oh man.
I snapped, bro. Literally, because I was so tired. Like I thought, so I sat there for the next half hour listening to him go off on the youth group, thinking he was talking to me. So I go to my room that night and I'm laying in bed, and I've never been that mad before in my life, man. Like it went from the happiest moment of my life,
Yep.
and because I let my guard down that quick, Satan took it.
Mm.
And I went back to my room that night. I'm laying in bed, and like just like I was when I was in Alabama, I couldn't see the demon or the spirit or whatever it was, but I could follow it with my eyes. Its essence, or I don't know what you would call it, just its presence. Knew it was there, and I said, uh, "I'm just gonna be honest with you." I said, I don't give an f what you do to me tomorrow. Just leave me the fuck alone tonight.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I want to tell you exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. I woke up the next morning. I thought, okay, I'll go to sleep and I'll wake up and I won't be in such a bad mood. So I went to sleep that night. And when I woke up the next morning, I was even madder than when I went to sleep. I didn't think it was possible. So I said, okay, well, I'll take a shower. I'll feel better after that. I get in the shower. I walk out. I look in the mirror. I see my face and I am livid. Like in anger, I didn't know was possible. Okay. For at least 6 years of my life after that, I allowed that spirit. And this is why I said earlier, and I tell people now, do not invite these things onto your life because they will torture you.
Absolutely.
They will straight up get in your life and do everything. It took like I said, it took like 6, 7 years before I finally that youth pastor got fired right after we left over something really stupid that wasn't his fault. He did what God told him to do. He left, and I never talked to him after that, dude. Like basically after camp, because I thought he was mad at me, so I got mad at him. Never said a word to him after that. 7 years later, after that dream where I was beaten, woke up beating my friend, and after the stuff with the girl in my room and all this stuff that was happening, like everything that could go wrong went wrong, dude. If I played football, I broke my ankle, or I cracked, or I messed my ankle up, or I messed my arms up, or I was like getting hurt every 5 seconds. I was in a walking boot for like 6 months. I was like just everything that could happen happened, right? So I call my buddy, and I'm like, dude, I need prayer. And he said, well, let's call our youth pastor friend. And he said, let's talk to him. And I was like, oh, dude, I don't know about that. Yeah. And he's like, no, let's talk to him. So he's like, okay, because he'll know what to do, right? Like, cause it's now I love the guy more than anything. It's crazy. So he's like, hey, let's meet up. We'll meet up since Tommy needs to talk. He goes, we'll meet up at the Waffle House, right? Because that's about as southern as it gets. So we're gonna go to the Waffle House. So we drive all the way to Houston to the Waffle House. And we're sitting in the truck talking, all of us. It's me, my friend, the youth pastor, and my brother. And he's like, well, do you want to do prayer and stuff? Do you want to go do this inside so we can eat and everything? And something told me, I was like, no, we're not going inside. Like, we'll do this out here. And he said, all right. Well, he starts praying, man. And straight up, these spirits start manifesting. I wasn't possessed, but I was highly oppressed
Yeah, man.
to the point that they were around me and could answer questions. We're sitting there and he said, who are you? And all they said was 9. 9, 9, 9. Like the number 9.
Right.
And he said, well, what are y'all doing here? Who are you? Like individually, which ones are you? And this 9. 9, 9, 9. He said, well, what do you want? We want to kill him.
Hmm.
He said, well, you can't do that. And they said, but we're going to kill him. And I was in a, I was in like a soft cast on my arm at that time because of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And my arm went up in the air and started slamming against the glass door or against the window on the door. And and I was like, dude, I'm not doing that. Like, what the crap? And so they grabbed my arm, pulled my arm down, and he starts praying. And they're like, no, we're going to kill him. We're going to kill him. And he was like, you're not going to kill him. So after multiple hours sitting in that car praying and fighting these demons and talking to these demons that I had allowed in my life off of one mistake, off of one misunderstanding. Come to find out that night while we were doing all of this and we're all talking and stuff, I was like, I was like, man, this is why I was so mad. This is what happened. And he was like, Tommy, I wasn't mad at you at all, man. He said, that was not, I had nothing to do with you. And I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I don't even know what happened to you. He said, I figured you just went on a walk or something and didn't come to church that night. Because, I was laying in the floor in the auditorium for an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was like, I figured you were just dealing with some stuff and that you were over there. He said, we had some students that were acting stupid and I called them out on it. But because I had let my guard down, that one miscommunication and not protecting myself led to almost 10 years of me almost dying multiple times and being attacked to the point of just losing my mind. And it was all a misunderstanding.
And that's all it takes.
Yep.
And I'm sure at that point, with all the anger and everything, You took your eyes
Hmm.
off the cross, and it was hard to get back on track.
I was Peter, not sunk.
Dude, I'm with you, man. Um, and I won't make my story very long or anything. I just want to let you know I can relate to a degree. I had a I went ghost hunting with a buddy at his house, and I was it was New Year's 2010. I had just come home. I had been home like a month, and I went up to Michigan to see him, and he had some weird stuff going on around his house. So I went up there and spent New Year's with him when we partied and everything. Because I got saved when I was 20, but then I backslid real bad
Hmm.
um, just a couple years later, and I stayed in that state for about 15 years. In that condition.
Hmm.
Um, but I was a heavy drinker. I was in the Air Force. That's why I was in Louisiana. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and
Yeah.
I'm not speaking ill of the military. I loved having the opportunity to serve, but I adopted a heavy drinking habit there.
Hmm.
And but I was up there with him, man, and we were down in his basement at the time he was renting this house, and there were cold spots in the house, and I fancied myself. Uh, I used the name Bump back then, to do. That's why I call my ghost hunting team. So I've been into it for a long time, man. But I had a couple of different things, man, to hunt with, like the ambient air temperature and all that kind of stuff, and EMF detectors. I was picking up these cold spots in the room, and like wherever I went, anywhere I went, it was colder around me, like within arm's reach of me. It was like
You
noticeable.
realized the house wasn't haunted. You were.
Yeah, kinda. And I wanted this thing to manifest because he said he heard growling and all this stuff in the house before, and I told whatever was there that it could use me for energy.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. Uh,
Mm-mm.
yeah, and I've repented for that, and I'll do it again. Lord, forgive me. but,
We'll double
uh,
that up just in case.
yeah. But when I did that, man, that night, hours later, I started feeling like real funky. I felt like the walls were closing in on me, and I had to go to bed. And to this day, I don't know if I passed out or fell asleep when I hit the bed. Um, Next morning, my blood pressure was through the roof. I had to go to the clinic and try to get them to check me, but they wouldn't do it without money. I was poor,
Mhm.
just horrible, man. But for 5 solid years, dude, I felt like I was cursed. Same thing.
Hmm.
Like,
I'm telling you straight up, it's a terrible feeling, ain't it?
yeah, it was like a 5 year curse, like nothing. And of course, I didn't turn to the Lord because I was hitting bars and stuff like that. But it was torment, man.
Hmm.
It was torment.
Yep. And when you deal with sleep uh, paralysis and stuff like that, man, it's like you don't get any rest.
Right.
Um, I would wake up, and a friend of mine that was with me all the time would be like, "What is that? What are you talking about?" And I'd have 3 marks down the side of my neck,
Oh,
always 3 marks. and and it was almost a nightly occurrence, and it wasn't marks in areas that I could have done. You know what I'm saying? Like in my
right.
sleep, like in like the way that they were done, you could just tell it wasn't normal. Um, but it would happen almost every night, sat on the side of my neck. That's why when I heard that thing on your podcast, I was like, "Holy moly, I'm not the only one." Like so it freaked me out. And then, well, see, I got through all that, and as I got older, man, like I got married, and my wife's been through the ringer, and maybe one day uh, she loves to tell her story, so maybe one day we can get her on here with you. She was put in human trafficking,
Oh no, man, I'm sorry.
and uh, and so she's got a story on how God got her out of that,
Amen.
and but in her family, and in mine too, in a different way. Like I guess I should have said like I have family members that were all like Masons,
Yeah.
and in her family that almost like a lot of them were witches. Um, and so, man, the stuff that we've had happen in our house. Heck, dude, the other day, I put that message on your on your thing. You hit me up. I said, heck yeah, I'd love to tell my story. And like a day later, my wife saw what she doesn't know what it is, but she straight up saw a dog man outside the bathroom window. Like a day or what? Like I think I texted you that day, so it was only like a day or two after we had talked.
Wow.
And I was like, "Hey, dude, you'll never get, like you. I can't wait to talk this, because literally she said she got up to go to the restroom, looked over, and there was this white furred dog looking through, and our window is at the like it's one of those just like little round windows,
Yeah.
and it's at the top of the house, basically, like it's up tall, like no humans looking into that window unless
Right.
he's standing on a ladder. Um, and this thing was looking down in the window, like like it was hunched over looking in.
Oh gosh.
And then not too long after that, she said she went into the living room and she sees like her like I don't really, at least not in a long time. I don't really see things in the physical anymore, but I can feel them,
Yep.
right? Her, she sees it. And so she said she's seen, we've had different encounters here because we've been attacked because we've got a lot of witches that have come after us and stuff like that just from uh stuff between that's happened in our marriage with her family and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but she said the only one that's really scared her, she walked out into the living room one day and there was a white elf like you would see on Lord of the Rings standing and she said it was evil. Like this wasn't a this wasn't like an angelic creature, right?
Yeah.
But it looked just like a white elf. Like she said, the way because she's never really watched Lord of the Rings. She was like, that thing on the movie Lord of the Rings that you like with the big ears? And I was like, an elf? And she's like, yeah. She said it was a white elf standing in our living room. And I
Mm,
was like, oh, that's creepy.
that is creepy.
She saw that. This is all just since I told you I wanted to come on your show and talk, man. I got sick. We got sick like 2 or 3 weeks ago, just after I talked to you, and we've been sick every day since it, just about.
Brother, I'm so sorry, man.
Oh no, it's not your fault, bro. I'm telling you, God is man. I I've been looking. I don't have a lot of friends, and so like because the stuff that I listen to, and I would be the guy that everybody says is a conspiracy guy
Yep. Me too.
because and so I don't have a whole lot of so getting a chance to come out here and talk and get some of this stuff out with to more than just like my wife or what I'm saying, just to be able to get it out to people, to be able to try to help people. I mean, I love it, man. Like I want oh, excuse me, sorry. I want to start my own podcast and stuff and I'm working on it. But it's like every time I get to where I'm gonna do it, something comes up or
Yep.
something happens and like I get sick or this or I lose my job or that, what I'm saying, like every single time. And so like I'm right now I told my wife, I said, well, I'm gonna do this with you and then I'm gonna try my best to get on it. And I want but man, I ain't gonna lie, you kinda you inspired me with the I could have asked all those other shows that ask you to write in and talk to them, but the reason that I wanted to get on yours is I love the fact that you keep it Christ, man.
Oh, thank
And
God
but
bless.
not only that, it, it's different. I don't know how to explain it. I've listened to all of them, and they're all good. Don't get me wrong. I love the confessionals and all those other ones, man. They're amazing podcasts. But something about yours feels like you're just like me doing something that God wants you to do.
Amen.
And so like my goal now was to get the courage to do something like this, to talk to you and get my story out there, and then hopefully pray and get everything together. I want to start my own, but I kind of want to do it kind of like yours, man, where it's just people needing to talk, letting them talk,
Yeah.
and people needing a brother to pray with them, pray with them. Like
Amen.
so. And God's been on my butt about it a long time, but it's like when you reached out to me that day, it was like, okay, I need to I need to do this. And then when everything went bad and we all started getting sick and coughing, hacking lungs, seeing all this spiritual stuff start happening. Um, right after that, what was it? Like a day after or so that I talked to you, I had one of those dreams, which I hadn't had in a long time. And I was laying there and I couldn't move. And I looked up and there was a shadow, a human shadow form sitting right next to my bed. And I didn't know this, but my wife said that during the night she started getting restless. She turned over and looked at me and she said there was a person, it was like a shadow sitting like it was in a chair, but it was like it looked like it was just sitting on air by my bed, but like if they were in a chair. And she said they literally had a needle and was sticking it in my back, like a syringe,
Yeah.
almost like where you would do like a before a woman has a baby, they get the shot,
Yep.
epidural. It's like they were sticking it in my lower back. The crazy part is that I have a really bad lower back. My lower back hurts me all the time. And so, like, I firmly believe that that was either someone astro projecting or someone praying spirits to come in and then mess up my back while I'm sleeping.
Well, I'll definitely be adding you guys to my prayer list, brother.
I'm
and
telling
I,
you, man, it's
and I hope you do the podcast. You know,
I want to, man. Last time I talked to a podcast guy about this, he got super offended and thought I was trying to like move in on his stuff. I'm like, no, dude, it's not like that. It's
oh man, there's room for everybody, man.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's the internet, bro.
Yeah.
I just want to learn, man, and
Yeah.
make friends in this community because to be honest, the people some not all the people you talk to, you've talked to some, man. I'm like, woo, but no, you know what? You keep Harry over there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I, I don't want Harry anywhere near me. But
Amen.
but a lot of the people you talk to seem really cool, man, and just and then the fact that you're able to talk to them and some I'm sure you've probably helped a lot of people just giving them the opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody. You know what I'm saying? And I love that.
Glory to God, man.
And I love to be able to tell this story and actually get it out there because that's a lot to hold on to, man. And that's not the half of it, but there's still a lot of stuff. But there's some stuff that I, eventually want my wife to sit down and be able to talk about too. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, she's been through the ringer, and we've had for the longest time a really bad relationship that we're trying to make work now,
Amen.
and it's like everything that can does go wrong and try to fix, and so be praying for us, man. And
Will. I will. Um, yeah, man. Text me if there's anything I can do. Like if you need help with anything, just
if you could just give up knowledge, man, like because that's my biggest deal is I don't ever know how to get started.
yeah.
Um, Once I get past that, like I said, I've got the stuff that's happened to me, and I just want to basically get to the point where it's just like you, man, where I can just open up the floor and be like, "Hey, tell your story."
Absolutely. Yeah, it won't
Just,
it won't
just
take it won't take long at all. As soon as people hear it, as soon as people hear that you have a platform that you're willing to talk, they'll get a hold of you, man.
oh, I love it, dude. And like I said, when you asked me like, "Do you have stories?" I was like, "God, I'm gonna blow this poor dude's ear off." I man, I've dealt with a lot, but I can say this, and I want to say this before we get off and stuff, is that there's power in His name,
Amen.
and I don't always call out to Him enough, and I don't always do things the right way, and I make a lot of mistakes in my life. But I'm telling you, like, you can sit there and try to fight this stuff physically in the physical realm, but when it says that we battle not against flesh and blood, it means it. And the only ones that the only time you can fight this is with God, man. Because we can say all day, oh well, Satan's not strong. Well, without God, he's gonna whoop all our butts.
Yep, for sure.
Gotta have God.
Yep.
Like you talked about how you and your buddies kind of got y'all's butt whipped when y'all went up on that mountain.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like, like that's why, like when that lady told me, she said, if you go looking for trouble, you're probably gonna find it. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you definitely got to be careful.
Yeah, that's when I found out that principalities are in place for God's purpose, whatever that is. I'm not to mess with finding out. You know
Yep,
what I mean?
I'm telling you, dude. Where I'm from a little town called Madisonville, Texas, man. And I'm not gonna lie, like you can literally, there's people that say all the time that used to go to church here and like they worked with the youth here and stuff. They literally say like you can see it that hover over our town.
I
It's
believe it.
actually it's like the drug capital of Texas, basically. It's like where all of the drugs from Houston and Dallas meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and you wouldn't expect it. Like if you went there and you didn't know any better, and you were, you weren't a spiritual type person, or living for God or whatever. Like you would go in, it's just a normal little podunk country town, right? But man, the stuff that goes on there, and there's a strong principality over that town, and I don't know why. Like we have had a lot of. I've noticed that we've had a lot of paranormal and a lot of like UFO type stuff. We had here recently. We've had a bunch of cows wind up with their intestines and stuff all out of them.
Oh no.
Like groups of cows. Like, dude, it was weird. Like, look it up. Look Madisonville, Texas UFO stuff, and you'll see it. Like it's like literally in Madisonville, Leona, and a couple other towns. I think they had massive cows with like all their blood drained out and stuff like that. Like crazy.
I'll definitely check
So
that out.
it's I'm telling you, it's weird, man. But no, like I said, I thank you for the opportunity to hop on here and do this, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime we'll line it up and get talk to your wife, and if she'll come on the show, man. Well, I'm about a month out. If if she'll be ready, maybe in a month or so,
Yeah.
go ahead
If
and put it
not,
on the
man, even
calendar.
if she doesn't, but she said that I can tell some of the stuff, so maybe we'll
Yeah,
just,
man.
even if it's just me getting back on with you again, man. I'd enjoy it. I love this, dude. Just sitting down talking.
I do too, buddy. I do too.
But like I said, let me I'll shoot you a text, and if you could just answer some questions for me, just to kind of help me get going.
Sure.
So I don't really have anything to plug, but I want to get there. And if there's people that want to listen, man, then I want to tell my story, and I want to give them a chance to talk and tell theirs.
Amen. Amen. I look forward to hearing your show, buddy.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, yours is a lifesaver right now, man. Like I said, I've been binging the mess out of your show, so
Thank the Lord for that, man. I appreciate that, brother.
that's no problem, man. But thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. You have a good night, and God bless.
Yes, sir. Same to you. Hey,
Yeah.
sorry. I meant to ask how long does it usually take for these to come out? So I let people know, and
Well, you know
I've
what?
got family members that want to hear it. So
Yeah. Let me look while I got you on here, man.
yes, sir.
Let's see. I got this should come out at the end of the month. I'd say maybe the 26th of
Okay, cool.
March.
Yeah, I've had people ask me already. I'm like, man, he's so far out. It's like I have no idea.
Well, I've had to cancel a lot, and
Hmm.
I've purposefully tried to space it out.
Hmm.
I kind of put myself in a jam because I think every day in March I'm either, except for the couple of days that I'm going camping this way, I gotta take a break. But
Get
it's
away,
like
man. Get away.
every day it's either something for church, something for work, or it's the show, or it's all
Yes,
three,
sir.
or it's two out of the three. So it's like,
No, I don't blame you, man.
yeah,
All
man.
right, man. Well, God bless. And like I said, get me hit up, schedule me again, dude, and we'll talk some more about it.
Awesome. Will do, brother.
All right. God bless, man.
God bless.